Hi, I am Point Master Shifa Panjwani, and I have been given the task of introducing Arden Miller. I was Arden's first friend at St. Mary's. When we were going to Victory Ranch freshman year, Arden was the new girl, and I decided to ask her to sit with me on the bus. On that bus ride, we discovered that neither of us had Instagram, a special moment for us both. Although I did not think this was a terribly significant moment, Arden and her parents have reminded me that she is very grateful for this, so you're welcome. Also, I want to take this time to thank Arden for joining me in being the two loudest people in BC Calc. There's not a day that goes by without Arden and I saying something out of pocket to each other in Calc or in the den. Even if we do not say anything, we just make eye contact at the worst times, and that's somehow worse than actually speaking. I am very excited to hear the possibly out-of-pocket things she will say today, so without further ado, I give you Arden Grace Miller.
I'm afraid of a lot of things, like losing something, or college, or bugs, and I'm really afraid of bugs that fly. But have you ever been in the middle of an argument and realized that you're actually wrong? I mean, I haven't, but maybe y'all have? Of course, I'm joking, but that's something that I really fear. Whew. Picture this. You've been arguing for a few minutes now, and it's getting pretty intense, which is okay, because obviously you're right, but suddenly you get this, uh-oh, feeling creeping up in the back of your head. You're wrong. You just realized it, but it's too late to save yourself. This is so embarrassing. So now you're sitting there, and the person sitting in front of you, who you just called stupid, is actually right. I would love to confidently deny that I've ever faced this and tell you that I've never been wrong in my entire life, but sadly this isn't the case, even if it is an extremely rare event. I'll tell you about one of the times I've been wrong. In the 7th grade at Woodland, my middle school, we went on a trip to the beach, Gulfport. Well, so I thought. In all the emails we received, Woodland administrators referred to the location we would stay in as Gulfport. However, it just so happened that the correct location was called Gulf Shores, not Gulfport. Of course, I did not know this until my dad said, "You're going to Gulf Shores next week, right?" No, I'm going to Gulfport though, I said with my usual sarcasm. Sounds like my friends think that's really funny. Actually, Arden, the place that you're staying at is technically called Gulf Shores. No, it's not. Nobody calls it that. After a few more minutes of an intense argument, my dad, laughing, decided to look it up on Google Maps. It turns out this was not the first time he had looked it up on Google Maps, and he knew what was coming. The cold, hard truth sat right there in front of me. It was called Gulf Shores. This was the worst feeling. That feeling I fear so strongly, and worse, now I was in trouble for being rude to my dad over such a stupid argument. It didn't have to be a big deal, but I made it one, just because I had to be right. But why? Why is this so important to me? It took me a while to realize that it's because being right, along with many other things, is one of the necessities for perfection. After all, a perfect person is never wrong, and I wanted to be perceived as perfect. And not just perceived as perfect by others, but also to prove to myself that I actually was. And I don't mean this in a crazy narcissistic way, because I had actually convinced myself that perfection was the only way to live. Perfect in her grades, her friendships, her leadership abilities, her extracurriculars, etc. The idea that someone could see even a little past that perfect outer shell to any flaw or emotion is haunting. I was the kid that, if I happened to fall down and get hurt, would scream at whoever tried to comfort me. One time in particular, my beloved brother Levi was chasing me with a Nerf gun as I zipped down the sidewalk on my elite Razor scooter. I turned back to make sure I was out of bullet range, which, by the way, I was, when suddenly my scooter went flying after hitting a bump on the sidewalk. My knee skidded across the pavement for a few seconds before I rolled over in my own blood. Embarrassed, I stood up and acted as if everything was completely fine. Of course, when a parent sees their 10-year-old daughter dripping in blood, it would make sense to comfort her, but I yelled when my family members expressed their empathy. Afterward, I was sitting outside on the steps with my grandmother, and I'll never forget what she said to me. "Arden, it's okay to cry, you know." I remember almost laughing. No, it wasn't. A perfect person wouldn't need comfort or to cry. Don't help me, I don't need it. But that was too late, right? Because a perfect person wouldn't have fallen in the first place. There was a running joke with my friends that I don't have emotions and I haven't cried once in my entire life. Obviously, this isn't true, but the point is, other people seeing my pain is something I've never allowed. But this stopped working as life got more complicated. It started to get harder to carry the burdens alone. I kept falling. I remember the first time one of my friends saw me cry. It was only last year. Honestly, it might have just been this summer. To say the least, it was awkward. I'm sure she was thinking, dang, I didn't even know she had tear ducts. But I've realized that being vulnerable and talking about those things that I used to keep to myself doesn't make me weak like I've always thought. In fact, it actually provides me with strength. Crying a few times is healthy. Who knew? And I hate to say this the most, but sometimes I am wrong. I'm still trying to stop being afraid of it. The reality is, perfection is out of my reach. I'll trip and I'll fall and I'll probably need some help getting up. I'll be wrong and I'll need correction. And my perfection perception will continue to crack. But that's a good thing because I'm no longer defined by my achievements. So I leave you with an apology. Sorry to those of you who I screamed at when I fell down and scraped my knee, whether literally, mom and dad, or in a metaphorical way, my senior class, even though I think I actually have screamed at some of you, maybe. Sorry for those unnecessary arguments, even though I can't promise they won't continue. And I also leave you with a thank you. Thank you for recognizing my need for assistance and correction and helping me overcome my fears, even if it means proving me wrong. Thank you.